Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome, everyone, wherever in the world you are. It's Thursday evening, it's 8 o'clock. It's time for another edition of Mek We Chat. Right now we have George. He is the only rooster in the hen house at this time. So we have George at the control. We have Margaret from New York, although she may not be in New York right now, but that's where she's from, right? We have Catherine from over there in the UK, where Brexit has them swinging back and forth, and somebody's going to drop off that swing very soon.
Don't even mention it.
Oh my goodness, I have never seen such nastiness parading as democracy.
The last time, the people on the news, they said that the people said they're getting mentally ill with this Brexit. I myself getting mentally ill, actually. So I don't even touch it. I don't have nothing to do with it. I want to go to sleep and then get up in the morning and it's go other way. That's all.
Well, that is what the Remainers want. They want to wear out everybody so that they can get to stay.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yes.
Catherine.
Hello, dear.
Do what I do. You know, and this is a true confession. I know a lot of people are going to come down on me for it, but I simply don't pay any attention to Brexit, you know. I'm sorry. I hate to admit it, but I just don't.
Don't pay any attention to it. I don't care what they're. Nothing at all. That's it.
We have enough commerce in this place to deal with.
Yeah.
Mr. George?
Here he is.
It's who did it behind you.
Listen.
Sorry, please.
No. Something wrong.
Hi, Jerry.
What's that?
Your bags.
In that split second, he paused before he responded. I was about to say, I hope you don't come here with any failing equipment tonight again.
I thought exactly.
I'm convinced. But I'm convinced that every time I start up Zoom, because I had to go through the same updates again. I've been using the computer all it never asked me to update. As soon as I come, a whole series of updates.
Yeah.
A whole series. This time I'm in. That's a good thing.
Are you on a Mac, Jerry?
No. PC.
Boy, let me tell you, you know, I have this automatic automatic update system from iPad from Apple. And the other day they sent one of their updates. I updated my iPad, and all hell broke loose, man. A lot of features have changed, and they haven't said to you, well, this is what you do to replace what we have undone. Nothing. So I'm catching my in with my
Apple
iPad.
used it pretty simple because my iPad updated this morning to the new 13.0.
Okay.
It used to be easy, but I mean, I don't understand it. Every time I seem to fire up Zoom, it has a whole host of updates to do.
Yeah.
Well, Zoom has updated itself quite a few times over the last few weeks.
Yes.
So
But it has to be that. Because I even stopped it, and the bottom down, they still tell me that I need to finish some updates, but I just stopped it and he said I was getting into the program. So I still have some that I haven't done.
Okay, well, they haven't bothered me in terms of operations because I scheduled them. Hi, Richie, welcome.
Good night.
Yes, I schedule and update them to run when I guess I would not be using the computer, you know, so it doesn't bother me. And that seems to work, but Zoom has been doing a lot of updates recently.
Clearly.
Yeah. Yes, but here we are in the chat room. the usual suspects, well, some of the usual suspects. As usual, we expect Afi to join us a little bit later. He usually tunes, Afi is very busy over there in Dominica, so he comes and joins us a little bit later on. We're sorry we can't have him at the beginning of the program, but when he joins in, it's always very valuable information that he brings us on what's happening down there in Dominica as they are counting down to election in that country. And I tell you, I've never seen more Hollywood movie live and unscripted than what is happening there in Dominica. But when Afi comes, he'll update us again. Last week, it was the tape with this drop-off and pick-up bag at the home of the leader of the opposition. And this week, we're hearing something about sniper rifles. So when Afi comes on, he will give us the latest act, the latest scene from this movie called Last Count. You don't know this is. You don't know his act what, and you don't know his scene what. A lose count. But all we know, excitement is on the ground over there in Dominica every single day as this election campaign carries on, and the date is not yet announced. Although the Prime Minister has said it would be within 100 days. And how many days have passed since he said that? About 10? Maybe around 10.
You do the math.
Yeah, so we'll see. So what we have on our menu this evening, before I turn over to Mr. Jerry George, we want to look at the hypocrisy that in dealing with abuse, not just in Grenada. Grenada was the latest episode, but not just in Grenada, right across the Caribbean. We want to look at money for water, but NAWASA, that's the National Water and Sewage Authority in Grenada, NAWASA struggling. St. Vincent is celebrating its 40th anniversary, and we want to look at the sniper rifles that we hear were landed on the shores of Dominica. So, suspect in charge, not suspect in charge, chief suspect, you can take over and lead the conversation. This evening, I've given you the topics. You can start anywhere you want. By the way, before you take over, I hope you guys all got a chance to look at that little clip I sent you with the promise of the money for the water.
No, I haven't.
I did get a look at it.
Silence.
No, I didn't get to look at it because I was on the road.
Hey, Bev.
George, you'll play it tonight, George?
No, because I haven't got it, Bev. And, Bev, come on. Emails are scheduled to arrive 3 or 4 days late
3
here.
days later, yeah. I should have sent it to you via WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Well, let me send it to you via WhatsApp while we talk about other things. And Afi's here, great, with a lovely floral arrangement behind him. Good evening, Afi. Who got married today?
I don't think you heard you.
Hello, Atherton.
Woman fast. Oh, Lord, woman fast.
Of course.
Nah.
So what?
No faster than you guys.
He's working on a set, man.
Mm-hmm.
So am I. You noticed, Jerry, you noticed, I guess you noticed a little while ago. Have you noticed that I actually have a live ornament on my set now?
You have a live ornament?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's a live feature right there.
Oh, at your back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what shocked me. That's the first thing I noticed.
That's part of my new set, man.
A live ornament. That's a good one.
Eat your heart out.
It's a reflection of you, George. You're both in white.
We're both. Actually, this is beige.
No, it's not. It's not
from
white.
A distance, it looks white.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys just eat your heart out, and look at Martin over there giggling his head off, and he's got like horns coming out of his head. Look, pretending that they're flowers. See that? You see that?
Nice hearing.
He has some explaining to do.
He'd better. He'd better. Oh, by the way, there's
my wife turned 72.
I thought it was a birthday.
And I'll be turning 74.
That's a celebration.
Nice.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So, we gather flowers.
Oh.
When I grow up, I want to be like you. ART?
You what?
I said when I grow up. I said when I grow up, I want to be like you. If you're 74 and
you want to be like me when you grow up?
Yeah, if you're in the shape you're
hurry
in.
up. Hurry up.
Hurry up. Listen, somebody named Ronald Joseph here posted something a little while ago. He says, I don't understand this. He says, why is Mr. Astafan? He says, RT has some questions for him about the CBI program in Dominica. Pro Lucasan says, oh my Jerry S. George. I thought I missed your early in the morning show. I thought it was a new day. Now here is Mek We Chat. It's still Thursday.
There you go. There you go.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Hazel Wilson is saying here, good night all. Is Margaret at home?
Yes, Hazeland. I'm home.
Do you know Hazeland?
Very well. That's my peeps.
Well, your peeps has been peeping a lot. Every morning she's been showing up first on Good Day Grenada.
Yes?
Yeah, she goes, boy, helter skelter. Jerry, what's the S4 in Jerry S. George?
Sugar.
Yeah, right. Sugar. Yeah, right. I'm sure.
Simple.
No, seriously. Sugar daddy?
Huh?
Sugar daddy?
No. It's not no SD. I said sugar. It's Samuel.
That is not wild promises that is a manifesto.
Who's that?
These are documents
Who's
signed.
speaking?
Who's that?
I'm trying to send George the file via WhatsApp.
Oh, okay.
So while you guys are there getting ready to jump into the topics, you remember what I said we're talking about tonight?
I don't have them all.
The hypocrisy of abuse. The hypocrisy towards abuse. Are we talking about abuse of children, abuse of women, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, all kinds of abuse? And that, of course, comes from the latest hue and cry about the sentencing which was handed down to this pedophile in Grenada, where he sexually abused a 5-year-old boy, and the court sentenced him to a fine of $1,500 for the court and $600 to pay for counseling services for the child. And that was it. Understand he's a citizen of the US. He jumped on a plane, left the country. And that is it. And there was a big outcry about that. And rightly so. I'm not saying there shouldn't be. But I just want to look at this whole hypocritical approach towards abuse of children, abuse of women, abuse of institutions, abuse in general. And to say that this is why we end up with these kind of sentencing, because we're too hypocritical. So take it away, folks. Let me try and send George the file so we can have it to play later.
Yeah,
no guarantee, Bev.
The question.
Yeah, I understand.
Say it again?
Go ahead,
George
Jerry.
says it's not guaranteed, so I say I understand.
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to say that this question of sexual abuse is really a regional problem. And I agree that a lot of it has to do with a lot of what is condoned in private. Because it's for years we've had the question of incest, and nobody has ever frontally approached the matter of incest. Nobody. Actually, recently, a young woman, well, she's not quite young at this moment, but having had the talk about rape, she called me up and she said, I wanted to talk to somebody. And she told me of her experience as a child and what she experienced from the man who was her mother's, her stepfather. Mm-hmm. And she admitted to me that even till now, she has refused to go back to the village from which she comes because of that. And she said, my mother knew. She says, I hate my mother till this day because my mother knew. But she was talking about confronting the man, who at this stage is in his 90s. But she feels that she needs to do it. So a lot of the question of abuse comes because there's a lot of that which is under the carpet, of either condoned or a lot of silence around the issue. But when it gets to the question of the judiciary, I think this is the ultimate sign that there's still, even at that level, are those people who don't want to treat with it as frontally and as hardly as they ought. Because how do you give $600 to a 5-year-old and think that that is sufficient
for counseling service?
For counseling services.
Yeah.
And then you pay $1,500 to the state and that's it?
Mm-hmm.
No, man. You see, the one thing that I don't think that has been considered sufficiently is the question of the psychological and emotional damage that people incur when these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if we continue to relegate punishment to fines, even imprisonment, are we really helping the people who are affected? Because this woman called me out of the blue. She just wanted somebody to talk to, especially now recently that there's been all of this discussion going on. And you just have to sit and think of the agony that these people live through. And that boy at 5 years old is scarred for life.
Mm-hmm.
There's no going back on this.
Yeah.
So when the judiciary seeks to deal with it as a matter that is, well,
not
as far
serious.
as I'm concerned,
it's not serious.
Exactly.
Because even if a counseling session is $100, $90, usually it's somewhere there. That is 6 sessions for the child. And you believe that 6 sessions of counseling can begin in any way to repair the damage done to that child? And you have and it's a female magistrate who handed down this sentence. And you know,
that's kind of funny though. I thought women would have been much tougher.
No. When you talk about abuse being kept, remember who you just mentioned a while ago? The girl said her mother knew and the mother did nothing about it. The women in our societies are the worst when it comes to hiding and covering up these things and causing the systemic abuse, especially of children, that we see in the society. I am sorry, but the women are the worst offenders when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it comes to abuse of women, women are also the worst in accepting that as the norm. You know, just during our carnival season, when the CEO of the water company was knocked down by this guy, women were there applauding and saying she deserved it. She had no right there. What was she doing there? And there was no shame in these women in condoning the physical violence meted out to another woman by this person in authority. Again, just recently when the journalist Callistra Faria found herself in quite a similar situation, you have women who are either silent on it or who support and condone that kind of behavior. You had 4 women in positions of authority who was in that room with the journalist when the incident happened with the male senator, and not one of those 4 women had a word of condemnation for the act. So, women, in my eyesight, in my analysis, are the worst when it comes to condoning and upholding all forms of abuse against children and against fellow women.
Beverly, Margaret was trying to say something. Hang on a second.
No, I had a question. So I don't know if anyone knows. What exactly are the sentencing guidelines for crimes
I'm
like
not
these?
hearing Margaret.
They're not here.
Yeah. She's not clear at all, Margaret. Doesn't understand.
Try speaking a little
Okay.
louder, Mags.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
A little better.
A little better? Okay. So
Yeah.
I had a question. Basically, what exactly are the sentencing guidelines for crimes like these?
I tried to get a lawyer to come on here to speak with us tonight, and it's amazing some of the responses I got from these lawyers that I spoke with, male and female.
It's called the Law Association, Bev.
Yeah.
God bless you trying to get anything.
Mm-hmm. And you come upon the Law Association every time something like this happens, because obviously nobody wants to come out and say the magistrate could have sentenced differently. Nobody wants to say that, And I even heard one lawyer say something like, government has given a position on this. And I'm like, we're talking about the law. What kind of government position when it comes to the law? So yes, Richardson, it is there. It's the law wall.
Yeah, and plus this has nothing to do with government. This is an independent branch. It is the old idea of the judicial branch. And then,
exactly.
So these guys, but it is what it is. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
But don't worry.
It's the society that we live in.
I want to share a couple of comments that have come in here. Donna Joseph says, but the magistrate hasn't considered the implications on the victim's mother, because that mother now has to live with that trauma that her child will go through on a daily basis. And she winds up by saying the magistrate is also a parent. Okay? Then she adds something here. She says, we also have 4 women from St. Andrews sitting in the parliament as ministers, and none of them has said a word up to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without apology, I refer to the women in our parliament as window dressing, because I don't see them coming out and making their presence felt. And after that incident with the senator, when the senator upbraided the senior female minister, prevent her from answering a question that she had agreed to answer, stopped her from doing the work she is elected to do. And she thought that was okay. She accepted it. As far as I'm concerned, all of those women in the parliament are there for window dressing. They're not advocates.
Mm-mm.
Exactly.
No.
I agree.
Yeah, when a march is organized, they're there in the front marching. But when you go in the parliament where you're elected to go to deal with the people's business, when you go into the parliament, what do you do in there? You don't advocate. I haven't seen one of them bring a piece of legislation to say we need this. I haven't heard one of them speak up and say we have the legislation on the book and we need to enforce it. I have not heard any advocacy coming from any of these women in parliament when it comes to abuse of our children and abuse of our women. So that is why when a case like this goes into the judiciary, which, as Richardson says, should be independent, and you see a sentence like this come out, I'm not surprised, because it's the same society, it's the same people. So why do you expect something different?
Yeah, and just to add to what Bev is saying, it's sad to see that they're not responding because this is not a political issue.
What was that? Not hearing.
And Margaret,
Yeah.
something
Speak up,
going on
Margaret.
with Margaret.
Speak up.
I'm speaking. No, so can you hear me now? Is
Yes,
that
you have to
so?
shout.
Okay. No, I was saying just to add to what Bev is saying. What is sad about you not hearing anything from the female members in Parliament is the fact that this issue is not a political issue.
Exactly.
And that's the sad part.
You know, Ati, what are your views on this?
I'm having a little difficulty hearing what Margaret says, so I don't want to miss any important points there.
Yeah.
But the 2011 report on child sexual abuse in the Eastern Caribbean, which actually went into the greatest of detail. Every one of our countries, the smaller islands, in fact, six of them were looked at in great detail. And several recommendations in detail were made. Something that points to the problem for me is that report, which had official sanction, was supposed to have been brought to all the parliaments and was supposed to have been disseminated widely throughout the society. It never was brought to Parliament, and it never was disseminated. So, yeah, we may be calling it a problem, and obviously it is, but it's not a problem that the leadership of the region for the last several decades has admitted is one or is willing to address as a problem. We are notorious for being religious and Christian societies, are we not?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And it appears that there's a direct relationship between your level of Christianity and the level of child abuse, including child abuse by people in the churches.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would suggest to me that the institutions of these societies, which are all inherited, none of them are from our indigenous peoples, they seem to have been designed to unravel and to allow people to look at themselves with disdain as opposed to with honor and joy, because there are things called the 10 Commandments, there are the 7 Sacraments, there are all these whatever, whether it be Catholicism or other, and these things specifically use words that speak to these abuses, but long before the courts could be accused of being guilty, I think the churches and the church leadership, and remember these churches are also notorious for having started schools in all our islands, Catholic schools for boys, Catholic schools for girls, etc., etc., etc. So, I mean, it should come as no surprise. It doesn't come as any surprise to me that, the proportionate relationship with religion and the hypocrisy associated with religion in our societies is also a companion, almost a midwife to the abuse problem that we're experiencing, and it's getting worse. So I know it is a problem. The only problem that seems to sort of trump it is climate change, because climate change is no respecter of persons or religion or class or color. And unfortunately, the children of the poor appear to have been the ones who have been more victims, although the children of the middle class and the children of the elites have also been in the abuse column in the statistics. So it is through and through the society. And when rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's house. So when abuse occurs, it occurs also like rain in every household.
Yeah.
So I I really believe it suggests that we have no interest in ridding ourselves of these scourges. We have absolutely no interest, and it suggests that therein probably lies the explanation for our parlous and sad condition, generally.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is so true, Afi. And
not encouraging.
I think also, this whole problem with abuse has been further compounded with social media. Because there are a few experiences in several OECS countries that I've had first-hand experience with as an ICT advisor. And the whole idea is for law enforcement to put appropriate measures in place to be able to deal with these folks and to address this matter properly in partnership with other international agencies. But so far, based on recommendations I've made, I haven't seen any country go out really and join any of these organizations. And it's becoming increasingly critical that that be done, especially with what happened in Grenada. So that has a certain nexus to a certain type of behavior via different social media platforms and that kind of stuff, I'm quite sure. So let's see what comes of it.
yes, and let's take a break. And when we come back, we certainly want to look at the role of social media in the whole systemic abuse that currently pervades our small societies. So, Suspect in Charge, take it away.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair Supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Alrighty, folks, we are back, and 25 minutes before the hour. Mags is going to do the honors of reading the comments tonight, so take it away, Mags.
Okay, so we have this comment from Pro Lucas Ann, and she said, for many women, it is about competition. Some do not like others to be seen as more courageous, etc. than them. Therefore, they display cruel, hostile, and negative attitudes to each other instead of working together to uplift themselves, even to help younger ones. It's a very sad situation. She goes on to say, women have to remember that their daughters usually model their behaviors. Some women who are cruel to others may have been raised by a mother who didn't even like herself or felt hostility to other women.
Not hearing.
Margaret, we're not hearing you at all. I don't know if you're hearing us well.
I'm hearing you guys pretty well, but I don't understand. And I think the
John?
people on John and they are hearing
George,
on Facebook also.
George, we're not hearing.
That's what we're just discussing here,
Yeah.
Richie.
Yeah.
Obviously, the folks out there are hearing.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why you guys aren't hearing us.
I don't know.
We are hearing you, George, but Margaret sounds muffled. She's not clear at all. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's probably.
All right, I'll tell you what. You guys go ahead. Continue talk. We're gonna change. We're just gonna change Maggie's headset. You guys go ahead and have your discussion.
Okay.
Right. Before we went out, Richardson had touched on the impact of social media when it comes to this whole systemic abuse that seems to have just settled itself into the society and into the psyche of the people in the society. But I want to look at it under the umbrella of institutional abuse, because that is the other area of abuse that we do not pay enough attention to, and it is chronic as well in the society, because we as a people, we back and we accept abuse of the judiciary, we accept abuse of the police force, we accept abuse of so many of the institutions that are set up to make the society function in a civil and organized way. And we watch these institutions being abused and we accept it, just like we accept the abuse of our children and we accept the abuse of women. And you're right, the social media has become another area where people go and now, like Facebook, you have the Facebook bullies and other such terms that have come out because of social media. We have the two techies here, Richardson and Jerry. I'm sure they can speak to how that impacts on us and how that permeates out into the society.
Yeah, Bev. Hey, Bev, one thing I wanted to just touch base on was the fact that you mentioned abuse of women, gender abuse, but I noticed that you did leave out abuse of males.
Yes,
I did. I would
my apologies, and it should be included because we do have abuse of males, maybe not on the same scale as women, but it is also something which is tearing at the fabric of our society.
We will never be sure on that number, so let's agree to disagree on that one.
A point I wanted to make when Bev was picking up about the institution. You know, the institution is not functioning as well as in society. But one thing we got to remember, the institution is made up of the society that comes from home. So the people, how they treat, how they function at their home, that's how they come in this society and function the same way. So that's the same attitude that you bring from home, then you bring it into the institution. It's the same people we are dealing with.
Well, Catherine, if it's one thing as far as the institution is concerned, there's a certain organization, religious organization, who for decades sent their perpetrators from the north to the south. Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't know if you've heard, basically, if a kid would complain about those perpetrators, the parents most likely would whip the kids and say, what are you talking about? That person would never do such a thing. So we have a history of that throughout the southern cone, you know, the south countries, as they put it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to be careful, you know, let's not leave out. I don't think it's ingrown, but they're just things that are cast upon us. And because of our cultural anchor, you know, we just end up accepting these things.
In the institution, just like how we accept it in our homes as well. That's what I'm thinking.
And in the country, look at St. Vincent. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent has been accused of sexual molestation. And Jerry could speak to it, I'm sure, that women came out and organized what was dubbed, I don't think they called it that, but it was dubbed a rape rally in defense of the
Organized by women. Organized by women.
You know, to say, how dare you accuse the PM of sexual molestation? And it's not once he was accused. I think it's about 3 different times, 3 different occasions. And a 4th recently in New York by a woman who said he accused her when she was a child, when he abused her when she was a child, you know. And you have women who are supposed to be educated women who you'd look at and say they should know better. They were at the forefront organizing a rally against it. How dare you accuse him? You know, so this is...
And you see, this thing to me now has gotten to the stage where you just wonder. It is a very complex matter. And in fact, in recent cases in St. Vincent, there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4 cases in which pastors were drawn before the court for similar things. So you ask yourself, where is really, there's no reference point left. None. Mm-hmm. It's as if whether it's the judiciary, the church, the family, everybody seems to be just as guilty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is what makes it so hard and so hurtful, especially in the case of the children. These children who are growing up in those situations, some of them are abused over and over and over. They grow up with it and they have nobody to turn to. Nobody to help them, because the people who should be protecting them are the ones abusing them. And Richie mentioned law enforcement. You know, in my humble opinion, law enforcement really can't do much when it comes to instances of abuse, especially when it happens in the home.
In fact, just recently we were discussing this, and I was speaking to a young mother, and she said to me, Jerry, you know, this news story was coming over about abuse, and her son, who I think is in third form, said to her, Mommy, who worries about the boys who get abused? And so sometimes we tend to think that this is a one-sided affair. But the other side of that coin is just as bad. In fact, the first interview I ever did with this, the man who was sitting on the opposite side of the microphone said to me, "Listen, Jerry, my uncle is who brought me into this." He says, "I grew up never knowing what the woman was for." You hear what I'm saying? So it is a very complex issue. Sometimes we focus just on the fact that females, but in today's world, it's not just females.
Well, this latest case in Grenada is with, is a small boy.
Right.
The one that has caused the outrage, a 5-year-old boy.
Bev, just to correct one thing, when I spoke about law enforcement and such, this was at an international level tied into social media.
Okay.
So it's all wrapped up at that level, not not at the
not necessarily underground.
Underground, although it could apply underground, but there are ways to do it because I've seen cases like that.
Richardson, there's somebody here was responding to you a few minutes ago. Let Mags read that comment before we get too far behind.
Yeah, can you guys hear? Is it better now?
It's
a little better. It's a little better. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ryan responded to Bev, and he said, "Bev, do not throw the baby with the bathwater. In Grenada, we are taught not to complain." And to Richie's comment, John said, "Richardson, the same thing happens with bad cops, not just child abusers."
With what?
To your comment earlier.
Hey, George, I'm not hearing what's being said. Sorry.
All right. Richardson, hold on a minute, please. Earlier on, we were discussing the fact that Zoom has been doing a lot of updates. I'm sorry that you guys are not hearing us, but from what I see out here, everybody else is hearing us out there.
But George, we're hearing you fine.
Yeah, there's an issue here with Are you hearing me?
People out there are hearing her fine as well.
That's okay. Are you hearing me? If I try to go louder?
No, we're hearing you.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm literally shouting here. All right. So to Richie's comment, John said the same thing happens with bad cops, not just child abusers. So I think that was to the comment that Richie made earlier.
What comment?
In the conversation.
But to what comment?
To
not sure. Maybe we'll get to link it back.
Yeah.
During the conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So until, and I've said this before, one of the ways to get a handle on abuse is that we have to deal with it where it happens, and that is in the homes and in the institutions, like in the churches. At mentioned that so many of these churches, these denominations, have set up schools, and they set up institutions where invariably they have a lot of children that are exposed to certain adults. And especially in recent times and within the Catholic Church, we've seen so many of these adults being cited for the abuse they have done to the children. We have to get into the homes and into these places and deal with it there. Do we have legislation for that? In Grenada, I don't think we do. Anywhere in the Caribbean, I don't think there is any legislation that allows any social worker, any law enforcement officer to go inside a home and deal with anything which is happening there with a view to bringing that situation under control. Because if someone is an abuser and that person is reported to the police and the police go and arrest the person, that's a temporary fix, because if he gets bail, where is he going to go? It's a temporary fix.
I wonder if we're even, taking the very first step beyond like what we are doing here. Here we have a radio program and we are talking about it. But I don't think the society even talks about these things. You know, the Rotary Club, the JCs, the Kiwanis, all these social service clubs that do all these fine little projects here, there, and everywhere, and everybody gets clapped and they receive medals and honors and so forth. I mean, but they know, and in fact, some of them live in and come from abusive situations. But they organize debates, school debates, but these kinds of topics, I have been a judge at many of the Rotary Club's debates, these kinds of sensitive topics never seem to see the light of day. And if we're not even willing to talk about it, how can we expect to address it in the security service, on social media, in the schools, in the churches? You know, because normally we behave as
you're making such a good point.
It doesn't exist.
Ati,
yeah,
you're making such a good point. Last night they had the annual schools public speaking competition. You know what was the topic? The topic was, let me try and remember it correctly. Should all LGBTQ activities be legalized or something like that? And I'm saying, really? That's the biggest issue in our society today? Really? And that is where the problem lies. Because the people who come up with those topics are sidestepping. You see, those topics are salacious. They get that kind of stuff. But the real issues that deal with either bread and butter or the emotions of our people, everybody sidesteps them. Go for the salacious stuff.
Even in Calypso. Can any of you remember a Calypso or more than one that dealt with the issue of child sexual abuse?
No.
I can't.
Nope.
And I follow Calypso worldwide. So you know, it is not in the social discourse. So it's not going to get scientific treatment. So we're not going to know how serious the problem really is, except in an anecdotal way when something like what you're talking about, Bev, happens. And it creates an outrage, but it's more an emotive response than one driven by, hey, let's get a handle on this so that we can do something about it.
Exactly.
That doesn't seem to be our architecture. That doesn't seem to be how we behave.
No, we don't do that. You know, last time there was another cry and outrage in Grenada. I remember when sadly this little 9-year-old girl was killed on her way from school. And man, that was outrage. And they set up these focus groups, invited in people to give their opinions, and more than just their opinions, to give input on new legislations and what they think should be here and this and that. And people turned out and participated, and you don't even hear the outcome of those meetings. You don't even hear the recommendations to say this is what was put together. You don't hear anything. All those things are just a waste of time. And that is why personally I don't get involved in these things when I hear them with it, because it's a waste of time until people get serious.
But we need to ask ourselves, though, what is it going to take to get us serious? Let me give you an example. A report has just come out. The French Agricultural Science Society did a research study on Martinique and Guadeloupe and the use of a substance in agriculture, mostly bananas, called chlordecane. They studied its use over the last 35 to 40 years. And today, all the soils of Martinique and Guadeloupe are so embedded with that substance, which has a half-life of over 800 years.
Roundup you're talking about? Roundup?
Not Roundup. This is another substance. Roundup is in the same kind of category. But there are 4 or 5 poisons that not only Martinique and Guadeloupe have been using for over 40 years, but Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Dominica and Jamaica have been using in our banana fields. Now, here is the hard fact, which we are still managing to avoid. Today, based only on the scientific study by the French of Guadeloupe and Martinique now have the highest rate of prostate cancer in males in the world. Wow. As a direct result of exposure to chloroquine. The water is contaminated. The vegetation is contaminated. Women are contaminated. Children in the belly are contaminated. The fish in the sea are contaminated. Cancer of all kinds are directly connected to that kind of exposure. Dominica is in between these 2 islands. Grenada, 4 islands down. St. Vincent, 3 islands down. St. Lucia, 2 islands down. Is it not reasonable to assume that we too, because we also have been using the same chemical, something for borers in bananas called furadan, a known carcinogen, gramoxone, reglone, 2,4-D. We've been using these chemicals for decades without any adequate attention to protective clothing and wear and knowledgeable use of these chemicals. What do you think is the state of prostate cancer in the Windward Islands? Is anybody studying it? Are we even looking? So I am saying, if you have that level of abuse of a physical environment that results directly in the abuse of the human environment, the body, and intergenerational abuse passed on through conception and birth and so forth, and the society is paying absolutely no attention
to it.
You think it's child sexual abuse? That's a male, macho-oriented, led society is going to pay attention to?
Point taken. Powerful point.
Point well taken. You see, and when people like us in this forum bring up these issues and discuss them as seriously as we do, we are accused, of only focusing on the negative. We only want to talk about the negative things, and everybody just want to say nice things and powder puff everything and try to make everything look pretty, when underneath the prettiness, it's just like a sepulcher.
Just remind them, Bev, when Jesus Christ came down, he wasn't looking for saints on earth. He was looking for sinners.
Yeah.
Or not to save them.
Yeah.
You understand?
But let me also make another point, because a lot of this stuff...
Abusers. Yes. That's our job. Nothing.
I was just going to say, a lot of this stuff also, there's too much focus on the political and the matter, as if the solution lies in the political. We have to look in our homes. That's where it starts. That's where the silence, that's where it's condoned. That's where I heard about a situation last week where when the woman found out that her boyfriend was having sex with her daughter, she beat the daughter.
Oh. And that happens. That happens so often.
The daughter is the one who got the brunt of it, because the daughter was trying to play big woman competing with her.
Yeah, and then when night comes, she go lie down in the bed with the same boyfriend. That's the kind of society we live in.
Because it's the daughter's fault. And this daughter is not 20 years old, This daughter is somewhere between 16 and 18. But it's the daughter's fault.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, this is a complex situation, and the sooner that we all decide to treat with this matter frontally, it's the only then we're going to have any time about it. So the court will always find a way, depending on who it is. Again, it's all subjective.
Oh yes.
The church has had a situation in St. Vincent where people cried shame on the church because the church rushed to bail the pastor. The whole thing is a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Incidentally, the man in this situation in Grenada, the 5-year-old boy, is supposed to be some pastor or elder in some church.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh yes. But let's take our next.
I've been keeping my powder dry on that one. Leave that one be for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
A segment of the population that has disappeared so completely and quietly, we pay no attention. You know, our children have disappeared. You see a 7-year-old child walking around with breasts.
But again, it's the chemicals.
The parents are dressing their children to look like adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's pushing the whole idea of abuse out into the industrial.
I want us to come back on that.
Yes.
I want us to come back on that.
We're on break, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to take a break now.
No, we
George?
haven't taken the break yet. I just as we go to the break, I want Margaret to bring you guys up to date. We're just going to bring you up to date on some of the comments here. Go ahead, Max.
Okay. Can you guys hear now? Is that better? No, you're still not hearing. It's still muffled. Okay.
All right. So off to the break we go.
GRENADAB Community Partnership Initiative, supporting health.
To the individuals who will be using these vehicles to serve the people, please ensure while we are using these tools that we use these tools in a manner that we will all be proud of. To GRENADAB, a long-standing partner with us, a true testament of what can happen when private and public sector work together for the benefit of the people.
GRENADAB, energizing our community.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
Well, you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks, we are back with the usual suspects. Top left there is Beverley. Right below her, there's Atherton Martin. Then to his left, Richardson Franklin. Propping up his cheek is Mr. Jerry George. Jerry, are you melancholy tonight or what? Are you melancholy,
What is
Jerry?
that? Am I hearing that?
I saw you propping up your cheek. I was asking, why are you so melancholy? You're propping your sorrows?
I hear George.
He's not hearing.
Jerry?
Jerry's equipment is failing again.
Are you going to
No, George sounds like in a hole to me.
I love this.
Catherine, are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear now. Yeah.
Beverly, you hearing me?
Once the mic.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
You're loud and clear, George.
Uh-huh. I'm hearing you. I mean, you do.
Oh boy, everybody's out.
We know hearing your guest a little better now, George, also.
Yeah, Margaret sounds clear there.
Yeah, Margaret sounds a little better as well. So we can get to communicate with some of those comments that she's been trying to share
not
with
hearing
us.
George.
I'll tell you what's interesting. We have used 3 different microphones here tonight with Margaret. Anyhow, Max, try your comments now.
Okay, so Pro Lucas Ann said, "Oh, I like that, Athy. Most children have disappeared." And Ryan also agrees. He said, "Good point, Athy. Sexualizing children, then the disastrous ultimately happens." Yep, I think those are
very true.
Yeah, 2 comments.
Let us continue. Jerry wanted to say something on the sexualization of our children in the way they dress and in the way they are put out there in the society, and then we have to move on because we do have other things that we said we wanted to look at this evening. Is Jerry hearing? Jerry, we're not hearing you. You see your lips.
Jerry's
You see your
miming.
lips moving. Jerry, your lips are moving, but there's no sound. Lord have mercy.
I think Jerry should change his name.
You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay. No, I was going to say that this morning I dealt with that issue, and some people took objection because I said that more wisdom has to be employed by both our women, older women, and our women who are dressing. The schools yesterday for independence allowed the children to come to school with all kinds of fancy designs in the colors of the flag. And I saw some of those designs, and they were not for children. Back out and all, they were not the kinds of stuff for children. But there are people who feel, no, somebody shouldn't say that, right? And I spoke to the issue that we admit we're living in a society in which it seems that we have this huge push towards sexuality. I'm not saying that a person, in the same way that we have our homes and we don't walk away leaving them open, saying that nobody have a right to go in my house. We buy cameras, we employ security companies, we make sure that our homes are protected. But when you say the same thing about the way women dress, people are upset. I'm not saying that anybody has the right because of one dress a particular way to go and molest. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that knowing the environment in which we are living, we ought to employ more wisdom. And I want to use the context of our homes. We shouldn't, at the time we used to walk, we leave our house open. We don't do it anymore. We have cameras, we have this and that. We should say, nobody have the right to go into my house when I leave it. But we don't take that approach. So that's why I'm saying that this matter is a holistic one. And we have to be prepared to look at it from all angles. Because if we're not prepared to look at it from all angles, then we're never, ever going to come up with a solution for it.
Yep, that is true. That is true. And don't wait until carnival time when you see some of these parents and the way they have their children out there, the little girls especially. Because where the boys will be dressed, the girls are being put out half naked, sometimes 2/3 naked. And with this whole neutralizing of the gender thrust now. People, you have adults who want to start teaching our children about sexuality when they're 4 and 5 years old, you know, and all kind of things happening that's just warping children. And you're right, Athy, they're disappearing. They are disappearing. Oh my goodness, there is so much work to do on the social side. I remember, I can't forget this prominent female leader once who said to me that, you know, if we could fix our social problems, the societies would not have any other problem to deal with. Yeah, but we have other topics that we want to discuss this evening. And Athy, we hear that some sniper rifles dropped in Dominica. What can you tell us about those?
Well, that's the least of our worries.
Really? If that is the least of the worries, then do tell.
I have to tell you. Yeah, I mean, we have a government gone AWOL, government gone crazy. We want them to be missing in action, but they're just not taking a hint. And, no, the situation continues to deteriorate fairly rapidly. The refusal of the administration to go forward with the recommendations of the OAS, COMSEC, and CARICOM regarding minimal adjustments to the electoral process have sent a really disturbing signal, and we're now beginning to see and hear, and pretty soon we'll feel the backlash from the international community and significant countries in that community to the rejection of what has long been a widely accepted set of standards for free and fair elections. We are going to be hurt fairly seriously by some of the reactions of these states associated with these institutions. Or what's left of our economy is likely to disappear fairly quickly over the next 6 months or so. I don't know if you are aware of the Transparency International report for 2018, which identified the CBI programs in all our islands being a major source of disturbance and concern to the international community vis-a-vis money laundering, corruption, and so on. And the recommendation that is made in that report, which I really should send to you all, because I should have sent it before now. My apologies.
Yeah, please.
The recommendation says that if these islands do not move with speed, excuse me, to introduce internationally accepted levels of due diligence in the granting of citizenship and the sale of passports. The report recommends that the European Union remove the visa waiver provision associated with our passports. That is the single most attractive element of all the CBI programs from St. Kitts all the way down.
Right.
And if we don't move rapidly and quickly to fix it and to sort it out, the European Union appears ready in the first quarter of the coming year to remove the visa waiver. That will bring these programs crashing down.
Yes.
And because that access to the Schengen countries is in fact the most lucrative and incentive associated with our passports. It's not the US and Canada so much.
Right. It's
Schengen.
Europe.
It's Europe. And but we are headed fast in the exact opposite direction, because we are competing against each other to sell our passports. We are selling the passports cheaper and cheaper. We are removing a number of the accepted due diligence measures that are required, and we are recruiting passport buyers and citizens from countries and regions of the world where, to put it very mildly, their pastime is the cultivation of rogues. And so right now, Dominica ends up at the bottom of the pile because, in addition to these problems, we have taken the extraordinary step of allowing our diplomatic passports to fall into the hands of these rogues. And so it kind of sounds like a perfect storm that is about to hit, because on top of all the domestic and governance issues that we have, we are now confronted by the prospects of an overnight, if you will, collapse of the CBI. And to give you perspective as to the impact, 50% of our capital budget is now financed by the CBI.
That is scary.
35% of our recurrent budget is now financed by CBI. So overall, 85% of the national budget is financed by the sale of passports. So you can understand. You can understand. If in the heyday of bananas never accounted for more than 15-25% in terms of GDP, in terms of revenue earned. So we are in an unprecedented and a frightening situation, and a new government is needed like last year. A new direction is needed like the last 5 years, and we are confronted with moving the process rapidly along, and confronted now by people who are talking about that they have snipers, and they have Navy SEALs, and they have foot soldiers watching them, having their backs, which means having us on the front. So tomorrow we actually doing taking an action, which is to, tomorrow is our Creole Day because our independence is November 3rd. And tomorrow we are actually taking an action that would allow persons who are concerned about these issues in the context of our national development and in the context of independence, make the point about the rapidity and the speed with which we are selling and doing away with that independence. It's going to be interesting to see how the police react and how they respond from a security standpoint. So
tomorrow is the best in Dominica. I've enjoyed every single Creole Day I've had in Dominica. It's fantastic fun.
But wait, before you go to Creole Day in Dominica.
No, I'm not going there, just making that point.
Backing up a little bit to the CBI. Something interesting has happened with the CBI in Grenada. The unit recently installed a new head, and it is reported that since then, processing of applications has dropped significantly. As a matter of fact, during the third quarter, 111 applications were received, it's reported, and only 22 of those have been processed, and 4 of the 22 were rejected.
Let me compare that with Dominica for a quarter. Last year, 3,961 applications were processed and approved.
In a quarter, one quarter.
Yeah, were processed, approved, passports delivered, money paid.
Ooh.
That's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And nobody knows where the money is going.
And well, somebody knows, because he said if he had put that money in the consolidated fund, the budget for the year would have been 2.2 billion, but it's really only 1 billion. So he's telling us.
Is that an admission that $1 billion is missing?
Yeah.
1.2.
1.2 billion is missing, and he refused to say where it is.
But I think beyond what we're seeing right now, the whole idea of the lack of enforcement and the lack of observing proper international standards. And you see, this is why you have this situation where the international banks have de-risked and left the Caribbean. All the correspondence banks are gone.
Yeah.
And people are wondering, well, why is this happening? But, as far as these regulators here are concerned, I mean, you look at what's going on and they know exactly what is going on. And they see that and they say, okay, these guys are not serious, so let's move our banks out.
Absolutely.
And once the banks get a letter, they're gone. And this is the problem. So the whole idea of how the countries start enforcing the know your customer, for example, regulations.
Yeah.
Then the region will be in problems.
Yeah.
And you cannot continue all of these programs, these passports and such, and be twisting the rules, because people are looking. I mean, the powers that be are looking, and they know exactly what's going on.
But Singapore reminds us that the first rule of building a stable government that is sensible and sustainable is meritocracy. No square pegs in a round hole. The person who heads up Dominica's CBI program is somebody who barely finished high school, somebody who made his name in cricket, and somebody who sat on the West Indies cricket board during the time of its rapid decline, and somebody who's a political colleague, associate, friend, cohort of the Prime Minister, who's had no prior accounting, finance, banking, or any none, no training, no training at all, and no work experience in any of these fields. But he is head of the CBI program in Dominica. Travels to Dubai and Qatar and all over the world promoting and selling passports. Drives in Rolls Royces, etc., etc.
Yeah, and that's the kind of lifestyle that CBI brings.
Yeah,
to
guys,
some people.
So just before, so that we don't get too far ahead of the comments. So you had from John, John said the capital of Dominica has now been moved to a numbered Swiss bank account.
He's still muffled.
Okay, so
muffling. Yeah.
All right. How about me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
yeah, George, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Margaret was saying that John says here that the capital of Dominica has now been moved to a numbered Swiss bank account.
Oh boy.
Ryan?
Oh,
but
Ryan?
just to add to Richie's statement earlier, Grenada has a unique situation this week, where the Financial Intelligence Unit is now asking that people involved in Susuhan report them.
Yes.
You see how this thing is narrowing? It is narrowing. It's really narrowing. And when you speak, Jerry, I mean, I've witnessed firsthand an FIU established in a country in the Caribbean. And I was never impressed with the folks who staffed up that unit. And the level of SARS, the reports you usually get when when there's a suspicion, something report, they've risen in this country. At one point in time, they estimated trade or questionable monies passing through this country was something like almost $2 billion US. So, part of the problem is that, one, the enforcement of the law. Two, we have to have properly trained people in these positions. When you're talking about FIU, you have to understand what this is all about. I mean, you must know finance, you must know accounting. Come on. So you have people doing all sort of money laundering thing up and down these islands, and you could tell from the time you drive through a city or you go to a shopping mall, you walk into a shopping mall and the mall is empty, right? Day after day.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
But it's full of merchandise. Right. But you mentioned that, and recently last week I had a young lady who is accounting professional out of Barbados, and we were talking about the accounting and issues, for example, such as the Accountant General's report, and she was making exactly that point, that what happens in government, the people who are in these offices, she asked how many of them have an ACCA. You understand? And interestingly enough, somebody sent me, who was listening to the program, sent me through my messenger and said to me, Jerry, in that department, there's one person with an ACCA. And they queried some other senior people who make financial and accounting decisions for the government who have none of those qualifications. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. Once you support the government, you're put there to do what they tell you to do.
Sorry, not support the government, Jerry. Once you support the party which forms...
the party in power. Yes. Don't make that point. Yes.
The party which forms the government.
Hmm. Yeah, but when you're talking about FIU units, I mean, it's not... These are police officers, and that's part of the travesty.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because it has nothing to do with politics. It's just... you hear this financial intelligence unit and you say, oh yeah, staff it up with police. There was an incident once where there was some corrupt practice at a bank and the bank called law enforcement and guys showed up with machine guns. Right? So, so those are the types of things you have going on. These guys, it's just a mismatch. Mm-hmm. At one level, there might be a political issue. I'm not worried about that. At the functional level, when things get invested. Hold on. Jerry, hold on, please. Once you have an appropriately done investigation, it's on the books. It's there. So
you cannot separate them.
Yeah, but listen to me. What I say is that we're not even getting properly done investigations.
Right, because the people in the place who have been placed there are not competent to do it.
But that's what I'm saying.
And those people are handpicked for whatever. Look in Grenada. Look in Grenada. The Prime Minister says that the man in charge of the FIU cannot go and leave.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point.
And the man in charge.
Handpicked.
And the man in charge of the FIU is the husband of a minister.
Rest my case.
Guys, just getting back here to the Susu issue for a minute. Margaret says, the irony here is that the people most likely to be affected by the new Susu regulations are the ones who voted for government. Just think about that for a minute. Just think about that, seriously.
Well, as far as I know, the Susu, like in Jamaica, they call it partner, Susu, same thing. It's a part of the Caribbean culture. That's how a lot of working people save.
Yeah.
But many people who do not have a bank account, they have a Susu hand. That's how people
So all
save.
that is going to happen is that money is going to stay in circulation in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are not going to stop. They're just not going to report the amount of it any longer into the system.
Mm-hmm. And people who, you know...
But there's another tragedy waiting to happen, you know. We all have cooperative credit union societies in our countries.
Mm-hmm.
That became a place where people of meager income were able to put their money, purchase some shares, and get a loan to build their house, to do whatever it is, and so forth and so on. But these institutions have gotten quite large, quite substantial in terms of their revenue. And so they now have taken people's savings and put them in the same international banking system.
But they have no choice.
I was about to say, because of the changes in financial regulations, they have to.
Well,
they have to.
Well, I'm not so sure. You know, I'm not so sure that we have explored all the prospects and possibilities. We've bought into the model of the international financial architecture, and you know, are there any options? Is there
I don't think,
other way?
To be frank with you, Ati, right now, there are no other options.
Okay.
There were opportunities that we could have probably developed other options, and we didn't move fast enough. And part of the reason is that in those same credit unions, they're struggling with the same problem. Because the way the credit union works is that people get voted on to committees and the things of that nature. And half of these people, more than half of these people, are nowhere near qualified. And so the international, when you see a credit union saying that they're controlling $100 million, $300 million, and the people at the head of the finance people, I'm talking about ECCA, some people don't even have that. And the people like the central bank looking and say, what?
Yeah. Well, what has happened here is that there's been a consolidation. So although we have many cooperative societies, we really only have 3.
Right.
Because they've been consolidated and they have highly trained professional staff because they can afford.
Very good.
All
Very
right.
good.
And that's to me the beginnings of the option. The beginnings of the option is that had we been able at a regional level to consolidate, we would have been bigger than any of the international banks that came into our region subsequently. But our central bank wouldn't allow it. Therein lies a problem. Because they didn't
I don't think that is all the truth.
Yeah, I think I have to challenge you on that one. There's no way we can be bigger than the extra regional organizations.
Not the headquarters.
But the thing about it is, once you have a fiduciary responsibility to your investors, and that means to get the greatest return on investment. There's no way, no how, in the Caribbean, you can safely get a good return on investment as compared to investing anywhere else in the larger marketplaces in the world.
In the Caribbean, here in Dominica, the credit unions pay the most attractive rates on savings. And because they consolidated, I'm saying, I'm not talking about challenging the headquarters of Chase and the headquarters of Scotia and the headquarters of the other big ones. I'm saying for the business that their branches are doing in the Caribbean, the cooperative credit union movement, if consolidated, would be a much larger financial presence and would be in a position to influence and move money into where it is. Why do we still need thousands of new homes built so people can be properly housed in our countries? And why has the banking community not been responsive to that? Would the cooperative credit union movement be more responsive? Do we have to earn by investing in their international and global markets, or can we earn by investing? We have Trinidad, a rich country, vis-a-vis the rest of us. Why couldn't that have been seen as an option?
But then again, you have the Clico experience.
Well,
okay, but
I rest my case.
No, but it goes. Ati, let me tell you this, Ati, I followed this development, and I agree with you. I feel if the credit unions had been a little bit more flexible, we might have had a different result. But the credit unions fought on the grounds that the old credit union rules is what had to stay. In other words,
they fought for the wrong.
Exactly.
Agree.
That is where I think they lost the battle. That's where they lost the battle.
The other side didn't win. We lost the battle.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I think it happened.
Because there was an entrenched leadership in the credit union movement too, you know. That's been there for a long time.
Exactly.
And that's the norm in the region.
And they didn't want to move.
No?
And when they were prodded to go in a particular direction, they insisted that the credit union organization has to remain this way, and that is where they lost the case.
But I think Dwight Venner and them made the wrong moves in the wrong way.
Oh yes, big time. Anyway, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we will continue with another discussion. George, I had sent you that file via WhatsApp. I wonder if there's any way we can't get it. All right. So we're gonna continue with the discussions after the break on another topic.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at Food Fair.
Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
guys
All righty,
get hold
folks,
of the
we are
Caribbean.
back with our remaining segments. It's now, let's see here, 21 minutes away from the hour. And off you go, Bev.
Well, folks, we are back for the final piece. But chief suspect is here, you know. He's the one who is supposed to be taking over now. And
Man, just let the thing flow.
And I wanted us to talk about water. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. I know that is one of Athe's hot topics as well, because we're not treating with water the way we should. I had a clip with the current Prime Minister of Grenada making some lofty promises for water development in Grenada in the last rally before the 2018 election. And it's going a year and 8 months, almost 2 years later, and we are yet to see a dime of that money on the ground. And I'm really sorry we can't get to play the clip this evening, because it's an...
I think you need to put the background of that on Thursday there was an incident in Grenada, and in some instances, people are still short of water.
Yeah, because we have been getting some rain in Grenada, and the National Water and Sewage Authority, it has an old plant. And when it rains as heavily as it has been doing, the plant gets damaged, obviously. It has to be repaired. People have to be without water. And sometimes, like over these last few days, some areas have been without water for days. Just this week, NAWASA announced that they would have to drain a dam, which would mean they have to shut down the system from today for at least 2 days till tomorrow, so they could drain the dam to do some repair work to the plant. The plant is old and it's under pressure. It is.
Yes, Richie.
Yes. That is what is happening. But
and today's Thursday, and there are some people who have not had a continuous supply of water since last Thursday.
Right, for 8 days now. And it's simply because of what is happening with the plant. The current plant that they are working on supplies some 52 to 57,000 customers in Grenada. So you know that is half of the population. And within that pocket, you have people who, within that pocket, you have like SGU, you have the hospital, you have homes, you have schools. It's just a large area. A lot of it is to the south of the island, and the south of the island has a lot of the critical areas that keep the country going. But personally, I sympathize with NAWASA. Water rates are pitifully cheap in Grenada. They need to be revised. My family, of course, is probably a little bit smaller than average. But for 3 months...
Your family a little smaller than average?
For 3 months, my water bill can't reach $100. And I know of people with families that are average, like families of 4 and more. And the water bill is like $30 a month. It's crazy. It is crazy. NAWASA is long overdue a revised bill. They need to revise the rate, not bill. They need long overdue revised rates. It's crazy.
Bev, this is why last week when we spoke about subsidies, and I spoke about the whole idea of calculating what is the cost of providing the good or service, that is where we end up when we have things like what you see with NAWASA. Because you need to, and part of the cost also involves investment costs, because from time to time, you have to invest in plant.
Yes.
So as you say, yeah, I mean, I am surprised at all bills when I look at Grenada's numbers, because the electrical bill is like the amount you're paying per kilowatt is wow. But then again, you don't have any natural gas or anything like that. So everything is imported, so you understand that one. But the water rates are very, very low. I agree with you. So, and I would just caution that, look, let's have this thing cost-based. So you know exactly how much it's going to cost government, and they price it accordingly per gallon or whatever it is, or liter, and you take it from there. But you must calculate the cost of providing the good.
But the NAWASA is a statutory body, so it is really set up to earn money to take care of itself. Recently, they were able to do some upgrading work because the government of Grenada owed them over $10 million, and they finally paid a bill. And so NAWASA was able to get the money to do some upgrading work, some badly needed upgrading work. But last year, when the new National Party, which won the election, had its last rally before the election, the political leader of the party, who is now the Prime Minister, announced that there was over $127 million for water to develop water in Grenada. And he said words to the effect that this is not a wild campaign promise, a wild manifesto promise. This is already signed and sealed. So what he was saying was that we already have the money. It is here. We just need to spend it. It's going a year and 8 months later, and I understand that NAWASA on paper is supposed to get some of that money, but they have not yet seen a dime. So where is the money? And the money is badly needed because NAWASA's plant is just under a lot of pressure right now. And it needs to be upgraded. It needs to be repaired. And we get these wild... Yes.
Wasn't the money supposed to come from some of the climate funds that were available?
Fund, yes. Most of it was coming from the Green Fund, and a smaller portion was through Germany.
Well, let me explain to you why y'all never got the money, and y'all will never get it unless you do things differently. Water does not come out of a plant. Raw water does not...
A plant.
A plant. A built plant. The built plant, the facilities that actually you're talking about, and your pipelines and so on, are just one part. In fact, they are the smaller part of your water supply system. The most critical part of your water supply system is your catchment, your forest systems. The reason you're having these sudden floods is that you haven't been taking care of your forests. And so the mud and the soil and the silt will mash up any piece of equipment. The investment that's needed, which is Green Fund related investment, is reforestation, an enhancement of the catchment area, enhancement of the floodplains, and enhancement of your river and ravine channels. Once that is done, you are then guaranteeing that a higher volume of high quality water will get to the plant and will not destroy the plant. Unfortunately, most of the people running these facilities are engineers trained to build things and to run plants. Foresters are not involved. Ecosystem management people are not involved. And that is where the Green Fund would come in. If the Green Fund gets a request from you to rebuild a damaged plant, they will not finance it. If they get a request from you to enhance and to strengthen the entire catchment system, which probably would account for water to a third or more of your population, they would be interested. But that ecosystem approach to water has not been adopted by any of our islands. People think of water as a faucet, a pipeline, a reservoir, a building. That's just the built component, the depreciating element. And I would urge people, all the billions that are there in various green funds and other places will only become accessible if we adopt a system-wide, an ecosystem-wide approach to water, which is the only sustainable approach to water. You can build as many new plants as you want, put in high quality pipelines, everything. But if you don't secure your water source, and if you don't slow down the rate at which water moves off your land into your river channels, sorry, you will continue to experience these unfortunate interruptions of supply.
And Arti,
and you will not get.
Arti, fitting into the conversation you guys are having right now, somebody, I'm assuming this person is in the Grenadines, Tony Ben says, water is something that the people in the Grenadines take seriously. We do not waste it.
Right.
And John says it's the same in Carriacou.
Right. Right. Water
the Grenadines has a lot to teach us about our approach to water.
Water supply,
our use of the runoff water. They have a lot to teach us, but we leave them out of the equations and we do our own thing. But the people in the Grenadines have to live, and one of the first things they do when they build a home is that they have to build the system. And their concept of use of water is something that is, you'll marvel at how much little water they use to do stuff.
Can you tell me when last there was a reforestation program in the Grenadines?
Good question, Artie, because here's a comment from John. John says, cut a tree, plant a tree. Okay, and Margaret chimes in here and she says, thank you, John. I'm old enough to remember Eric Gary's Carry a Tree to Carriacou campaign to bring more rain. Back in those days, people laughed at him.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It holds the water. It retains the water. It reduces your loss of surface soil and erosion, flooding, landslides, siltation of your ponds, siltation of your reservoirs. All of that gets reduced if you plant trees in the catchment. And these are not just trees for trees. These are trees that will bring birds. These are trees that actually, some of which can be harvested, selectively and replaced. These are trees that are a basis for ecotourism, nature tourism. These are trees that will give you oxygen and make you healthier. I mean, but that quiet work of tree systems is not taken into account. We just think of the mortar and the rebar and the metal and the glass and the piping, but the more important segment of your water supply is your water source. Unless you take care of it, you can build the nicest plant you want.
Yeah. I see, and I think you hitting the nail squarely on the head, because I mean we've spoken about the whole idea of hillside management.
Yep.
You see throughout the Caribbean, this whole idea, slash and burn, or people just cutting areas to build homes on the hillside in Grenada. You see guys trenching out the land and such. Then you hear people start talking about box drains. These concreted drains are very critical to bring water down to the lower parts of the country faster. So like in Trinidad, for example, certain parts it starts raining and in 15 minutes time, Port of Spain is flooded. Because it's all box drains and the riverbed has been cemented and all of this sort of foolishness. So, and what people don't understand also is that, as you say, the reforestation also helps with the aquifers, which we may not see, but which exists somewhere and allow the proper seepage with time. Now, we speak about certain grasses and such that you could use to retard the flow of water. And I think more and more we have to start looking towards these things and just saying to people, hey, look, you have to plant certain things along the contours of the land.
That's right.
That will basically start this whole process of, being able to collect the water, slow the flow of water. You know, let the water go where it belongs. The water belongs in the earth. You know, that's where it belongs.
These are not just grasses, Richie, that would do that. They would do that.
Trees, yeah.
There are also grasses which are a crop. Vetiver,
But that's what vetiver is the main one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they create work.
Yeah.
That would not otherwise be there.
Yeah.
Somebody has to harvest it.
And oils, you know, oils, the byproducts and all this sort of stuff, yeah.
So we just, I don't know.
6 minutes to go.
Yes, and we have to wish St. Vincent a happy anniversary.
Our 40th anniversary of independence is upon us on Sunday.
I thought George was getting married.
By the way, I'm at here in St. Vincent as a reforestation program using with the secondary school students planting trees and such. So
wonderful.
Again, further kudos to St. Lucia. St. Vincent, sorry. And the Grenadines,
How old
SVG.
is St. Vincent Nation now?
40 years.
Oh, gosh.
And the tagline is supposed to be renewal at 40. I will not speak to that this year, but that is what it says. At least it's an admission that we hold.
How is this resilience at 41?
Huh?
Resilience at 41.
Oh, that's yours, resilience at 41. Interesting.
Okay.
Fancy talk.
And yours is
Fancy
renewal.
Yeah, craziness, man. Craziness.
Yeah, but what both of you have anniversaries. Dominica is in November, right?
November 3rd.
Yeah. And then St. Vincent is just a few days before. One is 40, one is 41. What have we done with our independence, people?
That's a whole program.
And I know 5 minutes is not enough to even touch that one. What have we as a region done with our independence? Put that in your brain and shake it around. And next week, I believe that will be one of the topics for us to discuss as two islands celebrate anniversaries. But maybe you want to just give us a little bit in the next few minutes, both Ati and Jerry, of what is happening in the country to mark the celebration.
Tomorrow
military parade.
The military parade for you, yeah. And you have a cultural gala too? Jerry?
No, beyond the military parade, I already don't know anything else. The Prime Minister is supposed to be speaking as we speak now. Yeah. He is doing the independence lecture. And listen, this whole business of how we celebrate our independence just annoys me each year. There must be a military parade. To what end, I do not know.
Well, that's in Grenada too.
Well, you know, I think Dominica takes the cake. We celebrate our independence on the same day that Christopher Columbus landed here. So you figure that one out.
No. Well, you see, at least they're celebrating the independence and ignoring Columbus. But joke aside, I think Dominica has one of the more colorful cultural significance to their independence. Yeah. How the women come dressed in their cultural outfits, you get a sense of the culture. Yes, the military parade is part of it, but when you look at the entire mix, it's actually very well. It's to me the best representation.
Is on another day for us. The military parade is actually on the day itself, on the 3rd.
Right. Yeah.
We have Creole Day and we have a Market Day with a difference. You know, we have a number of really...
I spent a few of them in there, Matty. I spent a few there, trust me.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that explains something.
I wonder what.
I saw a young fella in the marketplace and I said, but that's Jerry?
Well, it's not easy for a scandal, boy. A scandal not easy, boy.
You have to laugh, Jerry. You have to laugh.
You have to. You better believe you have to. What's the time? I think we just
but if I already look like you, Jerry? I mean, it's true, eh?
Okay. Point taken.
I'm not saying you had anything to do
with it. But is that me, I will say like Shaggy, it wasn't me. Neither the guy nor how the guy came.
Oh boy.
Once again, folks, we want to thank you very much for joining us for another edition of Mek We Chat. As usual, we pick topics that we think should interest you and hopefully inspire you. But we have lots in this region that we need to pay attention to. There's some days, honestly speaking, you wonder, but we can't. We have to keep up the fight. And the fact that we do this right across the region, right up in New York, that moved on to St. George's, all of that, just to tell you how mobile we are, we can move New York to St. George's.
And let's not forget across the pond in London town.
No, I forget. I finished because you too, and we go across the pond right into London with all the confusion of Brexit. But thanks for joining us, folks. And George, once again, thanks for hosting us. I'm Jerry George saying on behalf of the suspects, have a great rest of the week.
Good night, folks.
Good night.